Hello and welcome to the news on ICTU-RTV. Coming up in this edition, the March ordinary session of Parliament has ended in Yaoundé with a total of 7 bills adopted and scrutinized and a series of workshops organized. We will have a balance sheet in this newscast. Following recent mainstream and social media campaigns against the high overflowing thrash in Yaoundé and other major towns and cities of Cameroon, authorities are swinging into action. Get updates in this newscast. Steve. You are welcome back. Let's take you straight to the Glass House, where a total of 7 bills have been scrutinized and passed. A capacity building workshop on the accounting reform effected by regional and local authorities organized for members of the Finance and the Budget Committee under the leadership of its chairperson, Honorable Mutimbu Rosette Ayayi, a recommendation to government and the general public on some topical issues, a special plenary and on domestication of Article 14 of the Maputo Protocol, especially its provisions on women's reproductive health rights, which are still to be protected in Cameroon. This is a brief balance sheet of the March ordinary session of Parliament that ended yesterday, April 9. While closing the session at the National Assembly, House Speaker Honorable Kavaye Jibril congratulated all those who initiated the various fora and expressed the deep gratitude of the National Assembly to different stakeholders for their support. The House Speaker also spotlighted on the October 2025 presidential elections as he urged all Cameroonians to be calm, serene, and patriotic while exhorting the members of the National Assembly to preach peace upon their return to their respective constituencies. Honorable Kavaye Jibril announced a ceremony to christen the new glass house of the National Assembly as the Paul Biya Glass House to take place on April 25, 2025, as well as the creation of a department for the proper maintenance of National Assembly buildings placed under the authority of the Speaker's office. Well, heeding to the call of the House Speaker to advocate for peace in their respective constituencies, some MNEs already have a plan of action mapped out as we get in the following excerpt of the Honorable of Bui Central, Honorable Ngala Estella Shala, MNE for Bui Central.
We ask us to go back home because we know that the election is coming on the whole of October, and we have to go and make our people that we should preach for peace. We should not bring disorder. That we should make sure that we live together and then give to our children who are in the bushes that they should come out and join us. And from the Wozu and from Kumbu, we center, that they are pleading to our children. Let me just send this message because I'm sure that as they are in the bushes, they are still listening to the radio, they are still looking at television. My dear brothers, people should lay down your arms, come together with us so that we sit together and plan our country.
We leave the glass house to take you to the streets of Yaoundé, where Yaoundé is slowly returning to normalcy after a recent surge in garbage heaps along major roads accompanied by unbearable stenches. As Jeremy Romy reports in the following report, major towns in Cameroon still face significant hygiene and sanitation challenges, primarily due to insufficient collaboration between the government and the waste collection company Zakam. His report.
Despite Sisakam's efforts, major Cameroonian towns are still struggling with cleanliness. This is due to several challenges such as lack of adequate waste collection points that leads to indiscriminate dumping of waste. Isakam's fleet of vehicles are insufficient and poorly maintained, causing delays and insufficiencies in waste collection. Many Cameroonians are not educated on proper waste disposal practices, and this brings about the littering and improper waste management. The company is as well facing financial constraints, including unpaid debt from the Cameroonian government, which hampers its ability to provide effective operation. On its part, the Cameroonian government is blamed for its laws and the regulations governing waste management, which many consider to be poorly enforced, allowing improper waste disposal to persist. The insufficient coordination between HISACAM, local authorities and other stakeholders greatly contributes to the managing waste activities. Cameroon's rapid urbanization is putting pressure on waste management infrastructure, making it difficult to keep up with the demand. Climate change on its part is contributing to the dirtiness of the towns as increase in flooding overwhelm waste management system and exacerbates cleanliness issues. Addressing these challenges will require a multifaceted approach involving government, private sectors and community stakeholders.
Parlons santé dans ce journal. La 28e réunion de revue internationale des programmes d'éradication du ver de Guinée se tient à N'Djamena au Tchad. Le Cameroun y est représenté par son ministre de la Santé publique, le Dr Manaouda Malachi, dans le cadre de ses travaux. Michel Betaïné, compte rendu.
Dans sa posture de représentant des ministres et chefs de délégation étrangère, le ministre de la Santé publique du Cameroun, Dr Manaouda Malachi, a pris la parole ce 8 avril 2025 à N'Djamena, au Tchad, lors de l'ouverture de la 28e réunion de revue internationale des programmes d'éradication du ver de Guinée. Il a mis en avant l'importance de la collaboration transfrontalière et intersectorielle.
Il est également utile que soit renforcé dans cette démarche dynamique et efficace nos engagements politiques pour consolider les acquis et mutualiser les efforts pour parvenir à la ligne d'arrivée dans les délais souhaités. Ensemble, nous avons la capacité de faire de cette éradication un autre triomphe historique pour nos pays africains et pour l'humanité tout entière.
Ainsi, pour ceux qui ne le savent pas, le ver de Guinée ou filaire de Médine est une espèce de ver rond filiforme dont la femelle adulte est un parasite des mammifères qui provoque la granquinculose, se manifestant d'une lésion cutanée douloureuse et inflammatoire contenant un ver adulte. Le ver de Guinée provoque une infection bactérienne et une paralysie à long terme. Elle nécessite un traitement qui consiste à retirer le ver adulte lentement. La consommation d'eau stagnante contaminée par les larves de ver de Guinée infectieuses est la principale cause de contamination. Des réunions comme celle-ci sont ainsi l'occasion de réfléchir et d'échanger sur les stratégies pour éradiquer cette maladie.
We stay in health, where the town of N'Djamena, Chad, is playing host to the 28th International Review Meeting on Guinea worm eradication. Among the attendees of the meeting that began this April 8th is Cameroon's Minister of Public Health, Dr. Manaouda Malachi. Louisa Quignon with highlights of the minister's speech at the opening ceremony.
Global health leaders from the world are convening in N'Djamena, Chad, for the 28th International Review Meeting on Guinea worm eradication. Amongst the officials taking part at this meeting is Cameroon's Minister of Public Health, Dr. Manaouda Malachi, who delivered a compelling plea for strengthened global cooperation at the opening last April 8, 2025. Speaking on behalf of numerous foreign delegations, Dr. Malachi underscored the critical need for continuous unity and financial support to eliminate this debilitating disease. The meeting, attended by representatives from various nations and organizations, reaffirmed the global commitment to eradicating Guinea worm. Public health boards stressed the importance of collaborative efforts across borders and sectors, stating that collective action is vital to achieving this historic public health victory. He acknowledged the significant contribution of the Chadian government, the Carter Center, the World Health Organization, and other key partners. However, Dr. Manaouda also raised concerns about the impact of diminishing global funding on the fight against neglected tropical diseases, warning that financial shortfalls could reverse hard-won gains. He highlighted Cameroon's ongoing initiatives, including investment in clean water access and community education, as examples of sustained national commitment. The meeting, inaugurated by Chadian Prime Minister Alain Halina, concluded with a renewed sense of optimism.
And to be more complete with our health package, we talk about this partnership between the Ministry of Public Health and Global Fund. Well, working together to build a resilient and sustainable healthcare system. The discussions between the Global Fund delegation led by the mission leader, Mark Eldon Eddington, and the Ministry of Public Health team focused on the state of collaboration between the two parties and the need to strengthen health governance to achieve better results. This question was the backdrop to the rich, frank, and cordial discussions between the delegation from the Global Health Fund to fight HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria, and the MinSanté team led by the Secretary General, Professor Louis Richard Njok, on behalf of the Minister of Public Health, outlining the points of focus, including the evaluation of co-financing, the strengthening of the financial system and the supply chain. The head of mission and head of the grants division, Mark Eddington, reassured the audience that their presence is to reaffirm their commitment to work together, given that Cameroon is very important to the Global Fund. Mrs. Ada Faye, the institution's financial director, went through some figures to highlight the state of performance in the fight against HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. After appreciating the progress made, particularly in the fight against HIV/AIDS, she spotlighted out the gaps and weaknesses that need to be addressed. Professor Louis Richard Njok, in his turn, began by praising the work done by the Global Fund to improve humanity. He went on to say that in addition to the mitigation plan to make up the shortfall that could result from the freeze on American funding, specific actions have also been taken. These include organizational reform for the HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria programs, and the removal of constraints on the payment of counterparts fund. At the end of the discussion, the two parties agreed to meet again after the Global Fund delegation had met other heads of ministerial departments as well as the head of government. On to something else now. Lutte contre la grande criminalité, un important stock de produits illégaux détruit ce 8 avril 2025 dans le 2e arrondissement de la ville de Bafoussam, région de l'Ouest. Les détails avec Michel Betaïni.
30 tonnes de chanvre indien d'une valeur de 500 millions de francs CFA et plusieurs tonnes de faux médicaments d'une valeur de 360 millions de francs CFA ont été détruits ce mardi 8 avril 2025 à Bafoussam dans le cadre de l'opération de destruction par feu brûlant d'un important stock d'objets illégaux. Cet exercice a été supervisé par le ministre de l'administration territoriale Paula Tangandji à présence des autorités administratives et compétentes de la région. Une saisie qui résulte de la coopération entre la gendarmerie nationale et la douane camerounaise.
La valeur des médicaments contrefaits saisis, c'est 360 millions de francs CFA. Donc, comme il dit, c'est le médicament le plus utilisé par les ménages. Le stock de cannabis saisi, c'est environ 500 millions. Donc, nous avons détruit maintenant, n'est-ce pas, une marchandise issue des mains criminelles d'une valeur d'environ 850 millions de francs. C'est extrêmement dangereux.
Nocif pour la santé, la destruction de ces produits illicites est salutaire pour le bien-être des populations de la région de l'Ouest. Après cette importante saisie, la lutte contre les drogues illégales se poursuit.
Je voudrais féliciter à la fois, n'est-ce pas, les forces de défense et de sécurité, la gendarmerie et la police qui ont saisi ces médicaments. Je voudrais également féliciter, n'est-ce pas, les agents de santé qui nous ont aidés à faire cette évaluation. Et puis pour dire, il faut vraiment monter, n'est-ce pas, la vigilance, parce que ces malfaiteurs agissent en bande organisée. Ils ont beaucoup de ramifications. Ils ont des magasins, ils ont des camions pour transporter, ils ont même des acheteurs. Et donc, il faut arrêter cette nébuleuse.
Le message étant passé, que les contrevenants se tiennent bien.
Let's stay in the streets to talk about the fight against illegal drugs and substances smuggled into the country, which is proving to bear fruit. Minister Paula Tangandji, while holding a security meeting in the West region with competent authorities and security officials, proceeded to the destruction of 30 tons of Indian hemp and several tons of fake medication worth 500 million francs CFA and 360 million francs CFA, respectively. An activity worth commending, as you tell us, Louisa Kenyoy.
A total of 30 tons of Indian hemp worth 500 million francs CFA and several tons of fake medications worth 360 million francs CFA have undergone public destruction in the west region of Cameroon. The illegal items were publicly burned to ashes at a Yizakam dump site in Bafoussam 2 on April 8, 2025, conducted by the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Antaganji, who held a security meeting in the said region. The minister saluted the commitment of the governor, Awafonga Augustine, health and security officials in the fight against drug trafficking, which led to the detection of criminal networks, the seizure of these drugs, and the evaluation of their risk. The Minad boss insisted that anything that is illegal has to be destroyed, noting the dangerous link between drug consumption and crime, especially amongst youth who have become somewhat addicted to the consumption of such drugs. Ahead of the presidential elections scheduled for October this year, Atanganji Paul called for collaboration between administrative authorities, security forces, and the population to ensure peaceful regional and presidential elections. This while urging West Governor to assist Lekam in upholding the rule of law in the region. Present were the 8 senior divisional officers from the 8 divisions, divisional officers from the MIFI, the Attorney General, and other security forces, as well as stakeholders.
We now talk something else in this newscast. Cameroon is playing host to the 111th session of the International Cocoa Council taking place at the Yaoundé Hilton. Chaired by the Minister of Trade, Luc Magloire Barega Tangana, the session aims to call for better trade practices as well as better compensation plans for the cocoa farmers. Louisa Kinya reports.
A call for better trade practices has been made to all those concerned in the cocoa sector. This was done by the Trade Minister of Cameroon, Luc Magloire Barega Tangana, as he officially opened the 111th session of the International Cocoa Council, ICO, in Yaoundé on April 8, 2025. He emphasized the urgent need for a more equitable cocoa trade. Addressing government officials and diplomats, the Minister of Trade, who doubles as acting president of ICO, highlighted the critical issues at stake, stating the need to answer the questions and legitimate expectations of the actors as there is no room for disappointment. A central concern raised was the inadequate compensation received by cocoa farmers who currently earn only about 7% of the cocoa value chain's generated wealth. The minister echoed Queen Mathilde of Belgium's call to bridge the gap between the actual income of producers and the decent income they can rightfully aspire to have. Furthermore, the minister criticized the unreliable nature of global cocoa production data, of manipulating statistics for competitive advantage. He also pointed to a lack of transparency regarding industry stock levels and consumer demand, questioning how fair prices could be achieved amidst such opacity. Acknowledging the legitimate concerns of industry and consumers regarding margins and purchasing power, the minister stressed that producers' primary focus remains on securing fair, equitable, and transparent prices alongside environmental sustainability. He concluded by advocating for a critical reassessment of existing economic models, citing their failure to stabilize cocoa prices. The reflection he proposed should form the cornerstone of the ICO's 2024-2029 Strategic Action Plan. The 111th session, concluding on April 10, aims to produce concrete outcomes for the cocoa sector, a vital economic driver for Cameroon and other producing nations.
Louisa Kinya reporting there, and that brings us to the end of this edition of ICTU-RTV News. Thanks for being there. Stay safe and be blessed.